So what's up, universe? It's Geronimo, your guide to psychedelics, plant medicines, and all the other compounds that are going to help you become your greatest self. Welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about microdosing, how to do it, which compounds are best, and the lessons I've learned along my journey. So, back when I was 18 and 19, I was going through the worst depression I've ever gone through. I mean, I was depressed since I was like 13. I was adopted. In my adoptive family, my mom made me feel so unworthy, and just guilty about myself and shameful. And I think it started with a childhood wound of losing my real mom. And I felt like my whole childhood, my whole upbringing until I was 17 and ran away, feels like they're pouring salt on my wound, on my childhood wound. And so I didn't have a chance to heal. And it wasn't until I ran away and did psychedelics did that healing really begin. So when I was 18 or 19, I was going through all this stuff. So that was going on. I was looking for love outside myself. And of course, you can't find it that way. And then on top of that, I had this fear that the government was going to like kill everyone. Like it's like Nazi Germany. I was into all these conspiracies, and I was raised Christian. And so I kept reading Revelation and like, oh my God, look at, this is the signs that the end time is near. And so it was a lot of pressure on me, and I was suffering hella, and my vibe was so low. It was horrible. I remember drinking a lot, smoking a lot of weed to cover it up. And not that those things are necessarily bad, but you can't go without them, when you're sober and you're like down, it's a sign. It's a sign. Then I took an antidepressant for about a month before I realized that's not the answer. I felt toxic, and it made me feel even more depressed. So then I did shrooms with my best friend and had the greatest time. Then I kind of realized that what state I was in, that I was kind of low vibration, and then I was so high at that point. So I was like, wow. And then the next time I did shrooms, I freaked out. Like it was just like, oh my God. There was like all these voices in my head, and it was trippy, and it just wasn't fun or comfortable. And that's when I started microdosing. So I would take a small amount. I found though that with different shrooms, it's a little bit different with the different psilocybin, whatever, the compounds that are in those different mushrooms. Some of them made me feel okay, while others kind of triggered anxiety and different things like that. So with psilocybin, I found it's best to always go under, and you don't want to feel it. Because if you do feel it, it could be anxiety, there could be different things. So yeah, it's best to go under and not feel it at all. While with LSD and mescaline, for the most part, it's okay to go a little bit over and to feel it, because you are still functionable. Although now I wouldn't do that anymore. It's all about not being high, just being enough so you can climb out of, to raise your vibration. But you don't want to rely on things, So then I found LSD, and I found that was much better than microdose. And in fact, I loved it. I loved it so much that I started microdosing every day. So at the time, there wasn't much on the internet about microdosing, or at least that I found. I was taking about a sixth of a tab, I think. Maybe that's like 15 or 20 micrograms. And I did that for a month straight. You know what it did? My depression completely cleared. Completely cleared. I might have still been afraid about the end of the world and the government, but for the most part, I was kind of healing, and I was lifted out of that rut that I was in for so long, for so many years. felt amazing. Felt like a rock star. But I was getting high. So I was doing that and smoking weed and then going to work, and it was fun. It was a great time. But of course, you can't rely upon things. So, but I was a little bit better, or much better for the most part. I still wasn't completely healed yet. And now that I'm older, I mean, do we ever get completely healed? I don't know. I feel super awesome now. And that's why I'm talking about this, because of, where I've come from. Then it seemed I couldn't find LSD anymore. So the proper way to microdose with LSD is to take about a tenth of a tab. A tenth of a tab, and then wait several days in between dosages. Because I don't know if I said this already, but if you take a psychedelic one day, the next day you're going to have to take double the amount. And so over a long period, that could get expensive. And plus, it could get risky. What if you take too much, you'll have what's known as a spiritual experience. And that could be heaven, or that could be hell. So, something to watch out for. So a tenth of a tab, 2 times a week, I found is good. Yeah. Now it's all about not feeling it at all. Just enough to help you become aware of the patterns that you're going through and rewire your brain, the software and the hardware and your emotions. And when you feel emotions and you start to think thoughts that bring you down while under a microdose, you can observe those, become the observer, and be like, oh, hell no, get out of here. And over a course of several weeks or months, you can completely rewire your brain. So, super powerful. Once all the acid dried up and I couldn't find any more, it's not like it's like people are just handing it out on the street anymore, not like the 60s. I finally found this cactus called San Pedro. And the in Arizona and Mexico, it grows naturally as peyote. That's the main alkaloid is mescaline. So we have it here, although it's illegal to pick because it's kind of endangered. And yeah, but they're legal to grow. And I remember finding a source on like Reddit or something. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe we'll bleep that out. But I found a source and I bought some, dehydrated it. The first time I took a full dose of San Pedro, and it was trippy. I was like, oh my God, it's so intense, so much energy. Then I realized I always go back to microdosing. That's the best for healing and transforming your life, and rewiring your brain. So I started microdosing it, and it was super awesome. It was very similar to LSD, I found, although LSD is synthetic, so that's something to be aware of. And mescaline, I felt very connected to Jesus or whatever, that higher power is, but I kind of felt like Jesus might have used this stuff. And it grows on all over the world for the most part. And that's when I made a video on mescaline already, but that's when the healing really began. I could feel my heart more, and I didn't realize that I had my heart kind of blocked off. But it opened my heart. I healed my knee. I hurt my knee a long time ago, and I thought there must be a way to heal with my mind. And then I found this plant, this cactus, and it helped me kind of bring the higher heaven down, kind of like that high state stayed within me. And I felt like a new person. The thing, I was also microdosing this every day. So the only negative I found with that, because you're not supposed to do that. You need to take breaks. It's smart. Don't you don't need to be like me. I was taking it every day, and it seemed like there's a part of my brain that was like, it was using up all the juice. And this is something I noticed with psychedelics. You can only do it so much because you only have so much juice in your brain, or whatever it is, whether it's choline or the dopamine, I don't know what it is, but you could kind of fry yourself. And, it gets to a point where you're like, you can't, you're not operating at the higher level anymore. The whole point of taking the psychedelic is to operate at a higher level. And while maybe at first I had like ninja skills and memory recall and all this stuff, like after a while, like my brain started feeling kind of fuzzy, kind of like you might when you smoke too much weed and you get greened out, as the saying is. So that's another thing to watch out for. Mescaline, the cactus, is super energizing. The other alkaloids in it are like horodine and I think like L-carnitine, things like that, maybe B vitamins. It's almost like, I call it like the Native American energy drink, like a Native American monster. Super awesome. So those are the top 3 that I would suggest. Of course, I've done other psychedelics. For the most part, though, those are the best ones. Yeah, I guess anything else to look out for would be being smart, knowing your limits, learning from the mistakes that I made. One time I was microdosing and I did too much and I was driving, and that's not smart. You don't want to go to jail for something like that. It's not about being high. It's about healing. It's about reaching a level that you can, so you don't need it anymore. That's the whole point of taking it. So you reach a point where you don't need it anymore. There's a saying that like psychedelics open the door, but you still have to walk through it. And there's been a lot of times on my journey where I've done that, and then I quit, and I've taken years off, and then I've gone back to it. There's times where I was taking too much psychedelics, and like I think I started to think I was Jesus, and that's something that happens, is you can kind of lose your mind or go down weird rabbit holes, and so that's another thing to watch out for. You gotta be aware of yourself and listen to the signs, listen to your higher self, and there's times where you gotta let it go, work on yourself, and then maybe you'll get called back to it. And now that I've healed myself, healed the childhood traumas, rewired my brain, and I understand reality much better. I don't fall in those sand holes, those sand pits anymore. But yeah, those are a couple of the things to watch out for. Be safe, do your research, know what you're getting yourself into, and yeah, have fun. This is awesome. This is what's going to take over the world. The United States is going to legalize more and more psychedelics. Weed has been slowly gaining momentum throughout the states. Shrooms, I think Oregon has legalized shrooms for spiritual use or for healing. And Colorado is probably going to this year. It's not long after that until everything else does too, because it's your freedom. This is your right to, follow your religion and do, and do what you got to do to heal. Because the compounds that they give us, the chemicals, the pharmaceuticals, for the most part, it's just covering it up. It's a Band-Aid. Oh, I'm in pain. Oh, cover it up, instead of actually healing. And if you go without it, you're in double the amount of pain. Well, these psychedelics can heal both your mind, your emotional wounds, and if you're intelligent enough, if you connect to God closely enough, you could heal yourself. This is belief. So, this is cool. This is the greatest time to be alive. So, hope you enjoyed this. Hope you got something from this. I'll see you next time.